The courthouse smelled of old wood and desperation. I sat on the hard bench outside courtroom 4B, my fingers twisted together so tightly my knuckles had gone white. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed with a persistent hum that matched the anxiety thrumming through my veins. Around me, other people waited. Lawyers in crisp suits checking their phones, a woman crying softly into a tissue, a bailiff with coffee-stained breath who kept glancing at the clock. I was invisible to all of them, 28 years old, wearing a dress I'd borrowed from my sister because I couldn't afford anything new, holding a purse with exactly $43 inside. The fabric scratched against my skin, too tight across my shoulders, too loose at the waist. Nothing fit anymore, not my clothes, not my life, not the woman I'd become in the 3 years since I'd married Daniel Hartwick. The courthouse doors kept opening and closing, each time letting in a gust of cold November air that carried the scent of rain and exhaust fumes. I pulled my thin cardigan tighter, wishing I'd eaten something that morning. My stomach felt hollow, but the nausea that had plagued me for weeks made the thought of food unbearable. Emma Hartwick? A clerk appeared with a clipboard, her voice flat with bureaucratic indifference. I stood, my legs unsteady. Yes. Courtroom 4B is ready. You can go in now. The walk down that hallway felt like a death march. Each step echoed too loudly on the tile floor. Through the small window in the courtroom door, I could see Daniel already seated at his table. His lawyer, some shark in a $5,000 suit, leaning close to whisper something that made my soon-to-be ex-husband smirk. That smirk. God, I'd once found it charming. I pushed open the door, and the heavy oak groaned on its hinges. The judge, a tired-looking woman in her 60s, glanced up briefly before returning to her paperwork. Daniel's lawyer straightened, adjusting his cufflinks with the confidence of a man who'd never lost. My own lawyer, a kind but overworked public defender named Rita Chen, gave me a small, encouraging nod as I took my seat beside her. "It'll be okay," Rita whispered, though her eyes said otherwise. The proceedings began with the usual formalities: case number, parties present, preliminary statements. I tried to focus, but my mind kept drifting. How had I ended up here? 3 years ago, I'd been so sure. Daniel had swept me off my feet, promising a life of stability and love. I'd been working double shifts at the diner, barely making rent, when he'd appeared like some kind of savior. Lies. All lies. "Your Honor," Daniel's lawyer stood, his voice dripping with practiced sympathy. "My client has prepared a video presentation that clearly demonstrates why full custody of the marital assets and a restraining order are not only justified, but necessary." My heart stopped. "What video?" I whispered to Rita. She looked as confused as I felt. "I don't know. They didn't submit any video evidence in discovery." The judge frowned. "Counselor, this is highly irregular." "Why wasn't this submitted?" "It only came to our attention yesterday, Your Honor. We filed an emergency motion this morning. The circumstances are sensitive." I watched Daniel's face, searching for some hint of humanity in those blue eyes I'd once loved. He wouldn't look at me, just stared straight ahead, that smirk playing at the corners of his mouth. The bailiff wheeled in an old television on a cart, the kind they used to show educational videos in school. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. "This video," Daniel's lawyer continued, "was taken by a security camera at the Venetian Hotel 6 weeks ago. It shows Mrs. Hartwick engaging in inappropriate behavior that calls into question her moral character and fitness as a spouse." The blood drained from my face. The Venetian. 6 weeks ago. I'd been there exactly once, for exactly 2 hours, interviewing for a hostess position I desperately needed. The restaurant was upscale, the kind of place where a single tip could cover my weekly groceries. I'd worn my only professional outfit, a black skirt and white blouse I'd ironed 3 times to get the creases perfect. "Your Honor, I object," Rita began, but the judge raised her hand. "I'll allow it. But, Counselor, this better be relevant." The screen flickered to life. Grainy footage showed the hotel lobby, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers. I watched myself enter the frame, small and uncertain, clutching a folder with my resume. The timestamp read 3:47 p.m. I remembered that day with painful clarity. The interview had gone well, or so I'd thought. The manager had smiled, said they'd call. They never did. On the screen, I approached the reception desk, spoke to someone off camera, then turned toward the elevators, and that's when the footage changed angles. The second camera showed the elevator bank. I stood waiting, alone, checking my phone nervously. The elevator dinged, the doors opened, and he stepped out. Even on the grainy security footage, his presence was overwhelming. Tall, easily 6'3", with dark hair styled in a way that spoke of expensive barbers and old money. His suit was black, perfectly tailored, the kind you couldn't buy off any rack. But it wasn't the suit that made my breath catch, even now, watching it again. It was the way everyone in that lobby had turned to look at him. 2 men flanked him, both built like mountains, both wearing earpieces and expressions that could curdle milk. They moved with military precision, scanning the area with eyes that missed nothing. Other guests instinctively stepped back, creating a bubble of space around the trio. On the video, I'd stepped back too, moving to give them room to exit the elevator, but one of the guards had held the door open, and the man in the center, the one who commanded the room without saying a word, had made a small gesture. An invitation. After you. I'd hesitated. Of course I had. Everything about him screamed danger, from the way his bodyguards positioned themselves to the cold assessment in his dark eyes as they swept over me. But I was already late getting home, and waiting for the next elevator meant another 5 minutes I didn't have. So I'd stepped inside, the doors closed, trapping me in that small space with him and his silent sentinels. I'd pressed the button for the parking garage level, my hand shaking slightly. The elevator descended in silence, except for the soft mechanical hum and my own shallow breathing. I remembered the scent, expensive cologne mixed with something darker, richer. Leather and smoke and power. I'd kept my eyes fixed on the numbers counting down, acutely aware of him standing just 2 feet away. The video couldn't capture what I'd felt in that moment, the way the air seemed to vibrate with tension, how my skin had prickled with awareness despite my best efforts to remain invisible. The sensation of being studied, assessed, categorized by someone who was clearly accustomed to reading people the way others read books. On screen, the elevator reached the parking level. The doors opened. I'd exited quickly, walking toward the public parking area where I'd left my 15-year-old Honda. But the footage showed him pausing, watching me go, his head tilted slightly as if I'd puzzled him. Then nothing. The video ended. I stared at the blank screen, confusion replacing my fear. I don't understand. What am I supposed to have done wrong? I took an elevator? Daniel's lawyer smiled like a shark scenting blood. Your Honor, if we could play the second video. Second video. This footage was different, higher quality, shot from what looked like a dashboard camera. It showed the parking garage from another angle, time-stamped 30 minutes after the elevator footage. The camera focused on a black SUV, its windows tinted so dark they seemed to absorb light. The rear door opened. The same man from the elevator emerged, now flanked by 3 guards instead of 2. They moved as a unit toward a section of the garage I recognized, the area reserved for hotel staff and service vehicles. My Honda sat there, pathetically out of place among the delivery vans. The man approached my car. I leaned forward, my breath caught in my throat. What was happening? On screen, he circled the vehicle slowly, his guards maintaining a perimeter. Then he stopped at the driver's side door and did something I couldn't quite make out. One of the guards handed him something small. A piece of paper? No, an envelope. He placed it under my windshield wiper, secured it carefully, then stepped back. For just a moment, he stood there, staring at my beat-up Honda like it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever seen. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing into the SUV that pulled away moments later, with an escort vehicle following close behind. The video ended. The courtroom was silent. I'd like to enter into evidence, Daniel's lawyer said, producing a clear evidence bag from his briefcase. This envelope, which Mrs. Hartwick received and did not disclose to her husband. Inside is a check for $50,000, made out to cash, and a business card with a private phone number. The world tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, my vision swimming. That's not... I never... But even as I protested, a memory surfaced. coming back to my car that day, tired and discouraged. Finding an envelope under the wiper, assuming it was a parking ticket or some hotel advertisement, I'd been so drained, so focused on getting home before Daniel started asking questions about where I'd been, that I'd tossed it onto the passenger seat without opening it. And then, God, what had I done with it? Your Honor, Daniel's lawyer continued, his voice rich with false concern. My client discovered this envelope hidden in Mrs. Hartwick's belongings 3 weeks ago. She'd never mentioned this encounter, never disclosed this gift from a man who is clearly wealthy and clearly interested in her. We believe this represents either the beginning of an affair, or at minimum, evidence of Mrs. Hartwick's willingness to accept money from strange men in parking garages. That's absurd, Rita shot to her feet. There's no evidence of any relationship, any contact beyond a chance encounter that resulted in $50,000. The lawyer's eyebrows rose. Your Honor, men don't leave that kind of money for women they've just met in elevators unless they expect something in return. The judge looked at me, her expression unreadable. Mrs. Hartwick, did you cash this check? My voice came out as a croak. I swallowed. Tried again. I don't even know where the envelope is. I never opened it. I must have lost it or thrown it away with other papers. I swear I never saw any check. Daniel's lawyer smirked. How convenient. Your Honor, Rita tried again. This is circumstantial at best. A man leaves an envelope on a car. We don't know why. We know exactly who he is, the lawyer interrupted. He produced another sheet of paper with a flourish. The hotel was kind enough to provide us with their guest registry from that date. The penthouse suite was occupied by one Vincent Moretti. The name hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. I saw the judge's face change, saw Rita's eyes widen. Even the bailiff shifted uncomfortably. Vincent Moretti. I'd heard that name before, whispered in the diner where I worked. Mentioned in news reports that always seemed to end with alleged and no charges filed. Vincent Moretti, who owned half the businesses in the city's waterfront district. Vincent Moretti, whose enemies had a habit of disappearing. Vincent Moretti, whose family had controlled organized crime in this city for 3 generations. Vincent Moretti, who had apparently left me $50,000 for reasons I couldn't begin to understand. Your Honor, Daniel's lawyer pressed, we request an immediate recess to allow the court to investigate this matter fully. We also formally request that Mrs. Hartwick be held in contempt for failing to disclose this substantial gift and potential relationship. The courtroom erupted. Rita was objecting, Daniel's lawyer was arguing, and the judge was banging her gavel. But I couldn't hear any of it over the roaring in my ears. Through it all, I felt it. A prickling sensation at the base of my neck. The feeling of being watched. I turned, slowly, my eyes scanning the courtroom. He was there. In the back row, partially obscured by shadows, sat Vincent Moretti himself. Those same dark eyes from the elevator, that same aura of controlled power. He wore a different suit, charcoal gray this time, but the same 2 bodyguards flanked him, and the same dangerous calm radiated from him like heat from a fire. Our eyes met across the crowded courtroom, and he smiled. Not a friendly smile, not a reassuring smile, but a smile that said he'd been waiting for this moment, planning for it, and that everything happening right now was exactly what he wanted. The gavel came down hard. Order! I'm calling a 30-minute recess. When we return, I want explanations. Mrs. Hartwick, you'd better have some answers. As the judge swept out, as Rita grabbed my arm to pull me aside, as Daniel's triumphant laugh echoed off the walls, I couldn't look away from Vincent Moretti, because he was standing now, buttoning his suit jacket with casual precision. One of his guards leaned close, whispered something. Vincent nodded, never breaking eye contact with me. Then he walked out of the courtroom, his footsteps echoing in perfect rhythm, leaving behind only the ghost of expensive cologne and the terrifying certainty that my life had just been ripped out of my control. Rita was talking, her words urgent and rapid. Emma, listen to me. Do you have any idea what you've gotten into? Vincent Moretti doesn't do anything without a reason. If he gave you money, if he's here... I didn't ask for any of this, I whispered. That doesn't matter. You're in his orbit now, and that's the most dangerous place a person can be. Through the courtroom windows, I watched a black SUV pull away from the curb, its tinted windows revealing nothing. But I knew he was inside, watching, waiting. And somehow, impossibly, I knew this was only the beginning. The courthouse bathroom became my sanctuary for exactly 12 minutes. I stood at the sink, gripping the cold porcelain edge until my fingers ached, staring at my reflection in the spotted mirror. The woman looking back at me was a stranger, pale, hollow-eyed, wearing someone else's dress and someone else's life. Water dripped from the faucet in a steady rhythm that did nothing to calm my racing heart. Rita had gone to negotiate with Daniel's lawyer, leaving me with strict instructions not to talk to anyone. But she needn't have worried. Who would I talk to? I had no family in the city except my sister, who was working 2 jobs just to keep her own head above water. No friends. Daniel had systematically isolated me from everyone I'd known before the marriage. No money, no options, and now, apparently, the attention of a mob boss. I splashed cold water on my face, not caring that it smudged the minimal makeup I'd applied that morning. Through the bathroom's small window, I could see the street below. That black SUV was still there, idling at the curb like a patient predator. 2 more identical vehicles had joined it, forming a convoy that screamed power and danger to anyone with eyes to see. Why? The question consumed me. Why would Vincent Moretti leave me money? Why would he appear at my divorce hearing? What could a man like that possibly want with someone like me? The bathroom door swung open. I expected Rita, or maybe another nervous divorcee seeking refuge. Instead, a woman entered, mid-30s, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my car, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. She moved with the same predatory grace I'd seen in Vincent's bodyguards. She locked the door behind her. Mrs. Hartwick. It wasn't a question. Her voice was smooth, professional, with just a hint of an accent I couldn't place. I need you to come with me. My heart kicked against my ribs. I'm not going anywhere. My lawyer... Your lawyer is currently being offered a settlement that will resolve your divorce favorably. Your husband will receive nothing. You will receive the house, the car, and a cash settlement of $200,000. She reached into her jacket. I flinched and pulled out a manila envelope. The paperwork is being drawn up now. All you need to do is come with me. I pressed myself against the sink. Who are you? My name is Sofia Castellano. I work for Mr. Moretti. She set the envelope on the counter, making no move to come closer. He requests a meeting. Nothing more. 30 minutes of your time, and you walk away from this courthouse a free woman with enough money to start over. And if I refuse? Sofia's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her dark eyes. Not a threat, exactly. More like pity. Then you go back into that courtroom, and Judge Morrison, who, I should mention, is in a particularly foul mood today, listens to your husband's lawyer paint you as an adulteress who accepted money from criminals. You'll be lucky to leave with your borrowed dress. She was right. I knew she was right. But every instinct screamed danger. Why does he want to meet me? That's not my question to answer. Sophia checked her watch, a sleek Cartier that caught the fluorescent light. You have 2 minutes to decide, Mrs. Hartwick. After that, I walk out of here, and my employer's offer expires. I thought of Daniel's smirk, of the judge's suspicious glare, of my sister's tiny apartment where I'd been sleeping on the couch for the past 2 months, trying to make myself smaller, quieter, less of a burden. I thought of that elevator ride, the way Vincent Moretti had looked at me, really looked at me, like I was something more than invisible. Just a meeting? Just a meeting. You'll be returned to the courthouse within the hour if you wish. My hands were shaking as I reached for the envelope. Inside was exactly what Sophia had promised. Legal documents, signed by Daniel, giving me everything. At the bottom, in neat type, was a number with more zeros than I'd ever seen attached to my name. How did you get him to agree to this? Sophia's smile was sharp. Mr. Moretti can be very persuasive. Your husband had some outstanding debts that have recently been purchased. He was motivated to cooperate. Outstanding debts. I thought of Daniel's late nights, his secretive phone calls, the way he'd started looking over his shoulder in the months before I'd left. I'd assumed another woman, But debt made more sense. Daniel had always lived beyond our means, always chasing the appearance of success. I need to tell my lawyer. Ms. Chen has already been informed. She advised that you take the deal. Sophia's tone softened slightly. You're not a prisoner, Mrs. Hartwick. You can say no, but Mr. Moretti doesn't extend offers twice. The water still dripped. Outside, I heard the bailiff calling people back to court. Somewhere in that building, Daniel sat with his lawyer, probably panicking now that his ace had been trumped. I picked up my borrowed purse. 30 minutes, I said. That's all. Sophia nodded once, unlocked the door, and gestured for me to follow. The hallway was empty, impossibly empty for a courthouse in the middle of the day. Our footsteps echoed on the tile as Sophia led me not toward the main entrance, but to a service exit I hadn't known existed. A guard stood there, not in a bailiff's uniform, but in a black suit with an earpiece. He opened the door without a word. The cold November air hit me like a slap. We were in a small courtyard, shielded from the street by high walls. The black SUV waited, its engine purring. The rear door opened. Vincent Moretti sat inside, one arm draped across the back seat, his expression unreadable in the vehicle's dim interior. He didn't speak, didn't gesture, just watched me with those dark eyes that seemed to catalog every flutter of my pulse, every shallow breath. Sophia touched my elbow gently. I'll be right here when you're finished. This was insane. Climbing into a vehicle with a man I didn't know, a man whose name was synonymous with violence and crime. Every rational thought screamed at me to run, but I climbed in anyway. The door closed with a heavy, final thunk. The interior smelled of leather and that same cologne from the elevator. Expensive, masculine, utterly intoxicating. Tinted windows turned the world outside into shadows. A privacy screen separated us from the driver. We were alone. Mrs. Hartwick. His voice was deep, cultured, with an edge that suggested he didn't waste words. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I clutched my purse like a shield. I'm not sure I had much choice. You always have a choice. He shifted slightly, and I became acutely aware of his size. He filled the space effortlessly, making the spacious SUV feel intimate. You could have refused, Sophia. You could have run. You chose to be here. You manipulated the situation. I resolved the situation. His interruption was gentle but firm. Your husband was attempting to destroy you with lies. I simply provided the truth. The truth? I laughed, the sound brittle. The truth is, you left me $50,000 for no reason, and now you're blackmailing me into— I don't blackmail, Emma. The use of my first name stopped me cold, and there was a reason. Silence filled the vehicle. Outside, I could see the blurred shapes of his security team maintaining a perimeter. Inside, I could hear my own heartbeat, loud and frantic. What reason? I finally whispered. Vincent leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on his knees, his hands clasped. Even in this casual posture, he radiated controlled power. Tell me about your husband, about Daniel Hartwick, ex-husband. Or he will be in an hour. Tell me about him. I didn't understand why he wanted to know, but something in his tone made me answer. We met 3 years ago. I was working at Bernie's Diner on 5th Street. He came in one night, charming, attentive, said he was in finance. I twisted my hands in my lap. He wasn't. He was a salesman, barely making commissions. But he was good at pretending to be more. And he pursued you. Swept me off my feet. Expensive dates, promises of a better life. I was stupid enough to believe him. You were hopeful, Vincent corrected quietly. There's a difference. I looked at him then. Really looked at him. In the elevator, I'd been too nervous. In the courtroom, too shocked. But now, in this close space, I could see the details. The faint scar above his left eyebrow. The silver threading through his dark hair at the temples. The way his jaw tightened when he was thinking. He was probably in his late 30s, maybe 40. Handsome in a way that was almost dangerous. Sharp cheekbones, strong nose, lips that could smile or condemn with equal ease. Why do you care about my failed marriage? I asked. Because 3 months ago, your husband stole from me. The world stopped. What? Vincent's expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. Daniel Hartwick was hired by one of my associates, To handle some financial transactions, simple work. He was paid well for it, but he got greedy. He skimmed $200,000 from accounts he thought I wouldn't notice. My mouth went dry. I didn't know. I swear, I had no idea. I know, his voice was gentle, which somehow made it more terrifying. You work 60 hours a week at a diner, wear borrowed clothes to your divorce hearing, and drive a car that should have died 5 years ago. If you'd known about the money, you wouldn't still be poor. He said it matter-of-factly, without pity or judgment, just truth. Then why? Because I went looking for your husband to collect what he owes, and I found you instead. The SUV's heater hummed quietly, but I felt cold. I don't have his money. I can't pay you back. I don't want you to. Vincent sat back, his gaze never leaving my face. 6 weeks ago, I went to the Venetian Hotel to meet with the manager of my restaurant there. I needed to interview hostesses. We'd had some turnover. You were there for the same reason. The interview. My last-ditch effort to find better work. I saw you in that lobby, he continued, his voice dropping lower. Nervous, trying so hard to look confident. You dropped your folder, and your resume scattered. You scrambled to pick it up, apologizing to everyone even though no one helped you. Even though they all just stepped over your papers like you were invisible. I remembered. God. I remembered the humiliation. I watched you get into that elevator, and I saw something that interested me. He paused, choosing his words carefully. Do you know what I see all day, Emma? Fear, greed, ambition. People who want something from me, or who are terrified I'll take something from them. But you looked at me in that elevator with simple wariness, like I was just a man who made you nervous, not a name that could destroy you. I didn't know who you were, I admitted. Exactly. Something that might have been a smile ghosted across his lips. It was refreshing. So I had my people look into you, and I discovered you were married to the thief who'd stolen from me. The pieces clicked into place with horrible clarity. The money. The 50,000. You were, what, testing me? I was offering you a way out. If you'd cashed that check, used that money, I would have known you were complicit in your husband's theft. But you didn't. You threw it away without even looking at it. He tilted his head slightly. That told me everything I needed to know. So you crashed my divorce hearing as what? Revenge against Daniel? I crashed your divorce hearing because your husband was trying to destroy you. And I don't tolerate thieves or bullies. His voice hardened. Daniel Hartwick owes me, but you, Emma, you owe me nothing. The sincerity in his words shook me more than any threat could have. Then why am I here? I whispered. Why go through all this trouble for someone you don't even know? Vincent was quiet for a long moment, his dark eyes searching my face. When he spoke, his words were measured, careful. Because in 3 years of marriage, your husband never took you to a nice restaurant. Never bought you anything that wasn't for show. Never treated you like you were worth more than the image he wanted to project. And that, he paused, that offended me. I didn't know what to say. This man, this dangerous, powerful man, was angry on my behalf. It didn't make sense. I don't need rescuing, I said, but my voice shook. No, he agreed. You need freedom, and I'm offering it. The divorce settlement is real. Take it. Start over. Forget this ever happened. And Daniel? What happens to him? Vincent's smile was sharp enough to cut. That's between him and me. You don't need to concern yourself with his debts anymore. A chill ran down my spine. I should have been horrified. Should have demanded he leave Daniel alone. But all I felt was a savage satisfaction that someone was finally going to hold my ex-husband accountable. Is that all? I asked. You just wanted to tell me this? I wanted to see you again. The admission was quiet, almost casual, but it landed like a thunderclap. To make sure you were all right. To give you the choice your husband tried to take away. Our eyes met, and I saw something in his gaze that made my breath catch. Not violence or threat, something hungrier, more patient, more dangerous. You should go back inside, he said, reaching for his phone. Ms. Chen will have the paperwork ready. Sign it. Take your freedom. And Emma? He looked up from the screen. Don't let anyone make you invisible again. The door opened. Sophia stood there, waiting. I should have gotten out immediately, should have run from this man and his world and the dark promise in his eyes. Instead, I heard myself ask, "Will I see you again?" Vincent's smile was slow, predatory, and utterly captivating. "That depends. Do you want to?" Every rational thought screamed no. This man was danger personified. Association with him could destroy whatever life I managed to build, but I thought of the way he'd looked at me, really looked at me. The way he'd been angry on my behalf. The way, for the first time in 3 years, someone had treated me like I mattered. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Then I'll let you decide." He handed me a business card, black, embossed with a single phone number. "If you ever need anything, or if you simply want to talk, call." I took the card, my fingers brushing his. Even that brief contact sent electricity racing up my arm. I climbed out of the SUV on shaking legs. The courtyard was still empty, still eerily quiet. Sophia walked me back to the courthouse door without a word. Before I went inside, I turned back. The SUV hadn't moved. Through the tinted windows, I could see Vincent's silhouette, phone to his ear, already moving on to the next crisis, the next problem to solve. But as I watched, he lowered the phone and looked directly at me. A man like that didn't look at someone the way he looked at me unless he wanted something. The question was, what? And the more terrifying question, why did part of me want to find out? Rita found me in the hallway, her eyes wide with a mixture of relief and concern. "Emma. God, where have you been?" "Never mind. Doesn't matter. Daniel signed everything. The judge approved it. You're free." Free. The word should have filled me with joy. Instead, all I felt was the weight of Vincent Moretti's business card burning in my pocket, and the ghost of his words echoing in my mind. "That depends. Do you want to?" I signed the papers in a daze. Watched Daniel storm out of the courthouse, his face purple with rage and fear, accepted Rita's congratulations and her card, promising to stay in touch, and then I walked out into the November cold, officially divorced, officially free, officially terrified of what came next. The black SUVs were gone, but as I stood on the courthouse steps, I felt that familiar prickling at the back of my neck. The sensation of being watched, protected, or hunted. I wasn't sure which scared me more. 3 days passed before I found the courage to look at the card. I'd moved out of my sister's apartment the day after the divorce was finalized, using part of the settlement to rent a small studio in a decent neighborhood. Nothing fancy, just 4 walls, a kitchenette, and a bathroom that didn't leak. But it was mine. The first space I'd had to myself in 3 years. The card sat on my nightstand, black against the cheap white laminate, like a shadow I couldn't shake. I went back to work at Bernie's Diner. I didn't need to anymore. Not with the settlement money, but the routine helped. Wake up, shower, tie my hair back, slip on the uniform that smelled like coffee and grease. Smile at customers, pour refills, pretend everything was normal, but nothing felt normal. Every black car that passed made my heart race. Every time the diner's door chimed, I looked up expecting to see him, or his people, or something that would confirm I hadn't imagined the whole impossible encounter. On the 3rd night, I came home to find a package outside my door. No delivery label, no return address. Just a white box tied with black ribbon, sitting on my doormat like it had every right to be there. My hands shook as I carried it inside and set it on the small table that served as my dining area. I stared at it for a full 10 minutes before I found the nerve to open it. Inside, nestled in tissue paper, was a dress. Not borrowed, not cheap. A dress that felt like water when I lifted it. Deep emerald silk that caught the light and shimmered. The kind of dress I'd seen in store windows and never dared to touch. A handwritten note lay beneath it, the penmanship precise and masculine. "You deserve to own something beautiful. V." I should have been angry, should have seen this for what it was. A wealthy man trying to buy my attention, my compliance, my gratitude. Instead, I found myself holding that dress against my body, looking at my reflection in the bathroom mirror, and seeing someone I didn't recognize, someone who could wear emerald silk, someone who wasn't invisible. The phone rang, shattering the moment. I didn't recognize the number, but something made me answer. Emma Hartwick? A woman's voice, professional and clipped. Yes? This is Margaret Chen from Venetian Hotel. We're calling to confirm your interview for the hostess position tomorrow at 2 p.m. I froze. I'm sorry. What? I interviewed there 6 weeks ago. I wasn't hired. A pause. Our records show you're scheduled for tomorrow. The position is still available, and management specifically requested you come in. Management. I didn't need to ask which manager. Yes, 2 p.m. I'll be there. I hung up, my heart pounding. This was too much. The dress, the interview, the feeling that my life was being quietly rearranged by invisible hands. I grabbed the black business card, my phone, and before I could talk myself out of it, I dialed. He answered on the second ring. Emma. Not a question. He'd known I would call, had probably been waiting for it. You have to stop, I said, trying to sound firm. The dress, the job interview. I don't need you to fix my life. The dress is a gift. The interview is an opportunity you earned 6 weeks ago. His voice was calm, maddeningly reasonable. Both are yours to accept or refuse. This isn't normal. People don't just... I'm not normal people. A hint of amusement colored his tone. And neither is this situation, but I meant what I said, Emma. You owe me nothing. If you want to return the dress and skip the interview, that's your choice. I looked at the emerald silk draped across my couch. Why are you doing this? Silence stretched between us. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, more intimate. Because I want to. Is that so hard to believe? Yes, I whispered. Men like you don't just help people like me. Men like me? He made a sound that might have been a laugh. Emma, you have no idea what kind of man I am. I know what people say, what they whisper. And what do they whisper? My throat tightened. That you're dangerous. That people who cross you disappear. That your family is everything they say and worse. He finished quietly. I won't lie to you about what I am, but I've never hurt anyone who didn't hurt me first. And I've never forced anyone to do anything they didn't want to do. Then what do you want from me? The question hung in the air like smoke. Have dinner with me, he said finally. Tomorrow night, after your interview. Let me take you somewhere nice, somewhere you can wear that dress. Just dinner, Emma. Just conversation. And if at the end of the night you want nothing to do with me, I'll disappear. You have my word. Every instinct screamed that this was a terrible idea. That dinner with Vincent Moretti would lead somewhere I couldn't come back from. But God help me. I wanted to say yes. Wanted to wear that beautiful dress and be seen by someone who looked at me like I mattered. Just dinner? I asked. Just dinner. And if I say no, then I say goodnight and you never hear from me again. He paused. But I hope you say yes. The vulnerability in those last words broke something in me. What time? I could hear the smile in his voice. 7 p.m. I'll send a car. I can drive myself. Emma. Gentle but firm. Let me do this properly, please. The please undid me completely. 7 p.m., I agreed, my voice barely audible. Wear the dress, he said softly. I want to see you in it. He hung up before I could respond. I stood in my tiny apartment, phone clutched in my hand, and tried to understand what I'd just agreed to. A date. With a mob boss, who'd orchestrated my divorce, given me a small fortune, and was now offering me a job and dinner. This was insane. I was insane. But when I looked at that emerald dress, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. The Venetian Hotel looked different in daylight. Less intimidating, more elegant. I arrived 20 minutes early for the interview, wearing my plain black skirt and white blouse, the emerald dress hanging carefully in my closet at home. The manager, Mr. Castellano, a trim man in his 50s with kind eyes and an Italian accent, greeted me personally. Miss Hartwick, welcome, welcome, please, come to my office. The interview was surreal. He asked basic questions, nodded at my answers, and within 15 minutes offered me the position. The pay was more than double what I made at Bernie's. The hours were better. The benefits included health insurance I desperately needed. "We're very pleased to have you," Mr. Castellano said, shaking my hand. "Mr. Moretti speaks very highly of you." My stomach flipped. "He does?" "Oh, yes. He said you were professional, punctual, and exactly the kind of person we need representing the Venetian." His smile was genuine. High praise from him. He doesn't give compliments lightly. I left the hotel in a daze, my new schedule and employee packet tucked under my arm. I had 4 hours until the car arrived. 4 hours to decide if I was really going through with this. I went through with it. At 6:30, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, hardly recognizing myself. The emerald dress fit perfectly. How had he known my size and transformed me into someone elegant? Someone worth a second look. I'd done my makeup carefully, letting my dark hair fall in loose waves around my shoulders. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. At precisely 7 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Outside. I grabbed my small purse, the only one I owned that didn't look completely cheap, and headed downstairs. The car waiting wasn't an SUV this time, but a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than my entire year's salary. The driver, an older man in a crisp suit, opened the rear door without a word. I slid inside and my breath caught. Vincent sat in the shadows, wearing a midnight blue suit that made his dark eyes even more intense. But it was the way he looked at me that stole my voice, like I was the only thing in the world worth seeing. Emma. My name was a prayer on his lips. "You look..." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. The heat in his gaze said everything. "The dress is beautiful," I managed. "Thank you. The dress is just fabric." He shifted closer, not touching, but close enough that I could smell his cologne. "You make it beautiful." The car pulled smoothly into traffic. I had no idea where we were going and found I didn't care. "Nervous?" he asked. "Terrified," I admitted. "Good." His smile was slow, dangerous. "So am I." "You don't seem
I'm very
terrified."
good at hiding it.
He gestured to the bar built into the car. "Would you like something to drink? Take the edge off?" "I probably shouldn't." "Probably not," he agreed. "But I won't judge if you do." I poured myself a small whiskey, my hands only slightly steadier. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere private. Somewhere we can talk without interruption." That should have alarmed me. Instead, I felt a thrill run down my spine. The car climbed into the hills overlooking the city, following a winding road I'd never traveled. Finally, we turned through iron gates that opened automatically, revealing a sprawling estate. The house, mansion, really, was all glass and stone, modern and imposing, with lights that glowed warm against the darkness. "This is your home?" I asked as the car stopped in the circular drive. "One of them." He stepped out, offering his hand to help me. His touch was warm, careful, and sent electricity racing through me. I thought a restaurant would feel too public. Too many eyes. Here, we can just be 2 people having dinner. 2 people. As if we were equals, as if he wasn't a man who could buy and sell lives while I was just a diner waitress in a borrowed existence. But his hand was steady in mine, and his eyes were honest, and I let him lead me inside. The interior was breathtaking, high ceilings, modern art, furniture that looked like it belonged in museums. But it wasn't cold. Warm lighting, soft music playing somewhere, the scent of something delicious cooking. A woman appeared from what must have been the kitchen. Older, gray-haired, with a warm smile. "Miss Hartwick, welcome. I'm Teresa, Mr. Moretti's housekeeper. Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. "Thank you, Teresa," Vincent said, then turned to me. "Would you like a tour first, or would you prefer to go straight to dinner?" "Tour," I heard myself say. He showed me through rooms that could have housed families, pointing out art and architecture with casual knowledge, but it was the small details that caught my attention. A photo of a young boy on a bookshelf. Fresh flowers in every room, books that had clearly been read and reread. "You live here alone?" I asked, as we stood in a library that must have held thousands of volumes. "Mostly. Teresa lives in the guest house. Security rotates shifts." He pulled a book from a shelf, his fingers gentle on the leather binding. It's too big for one person, but it was my father's house, and I haven't been able to let it go. Was? I asked softly. He died 6 years ago. Heart attack. Vincent's jaw tightened. Sudden. No warning. I'm sorry. Don't be. He was a hard man who made hard choices, but he taught me everything I know. He returned the book to its place, good and bad. We stood in comfortable silence, surrounded by books and soft light. This close, I could see the faint lines around his eyes, the tension he carried in his shoulders. He wasn't just dangerous, he was tired. Human. Dinner is served, Teresa called from the doorway. The dining room overlooked the city, floor-to-ceiling windows revealing a carpet of light stretching to the horizon. The table could have seated 20, but was set for 2, intimate despite the space. Vincent held my chair, his hand brushing my shoulder as I sat. That simple touch sent heat cascading through me. Dinner was perfect. Pasta made fresh, wine that probably cost more than my car, conversation that flowed easier than it should have. He asked about my life, my dreams, the things I wanted. I found myself talking about plans I'd abandoned, hopes I'd buried, the person I'd been before Daniel. You should go back to school, Vincent said as Teresa cleared our plates. You mentioned wanting to study literature. Why stop? Money, time, life got in the way. Life doesn't have to get in the way anymore. He leaned back, wine glass in hand. You have the settlement. You have a job with flexible hours. What's really stopping you? Fear, I wanted to say. Fear that I'd fail. Fear that I wasn't smart enough, good enough, deserving enough. I don't know, I said instead. His dark eyes saw through me. Fear is a choice, Emma. So is courage. Is that how you live? Always choosing courage? I choose survival. He set down his glass. And sometimes, survival looks like courage. What are you surviving? The weight of my family's legacy, the expectations, the knowledge that every choice I make affects hundreds of people. His smile was bitter. Not so different from you, really. Just a different kind of cage. I thought of his beautiful house, his power, his wealth. Your cage seems nicer than mine was. Gold bars are still bars, Emma. We moved to the terrace after dinner, the night air cool but not cold. The city sprawled below us, a living thing of light and sound and life. Vincent stood close, not touching, but I felt his presence like heat from a fire. Thank you for tonight, I said quietly. For all of this. It's not over yet. I turned to face him, finding him closer than I'd realized. His eyes were dark, intense, searching my face like he was memorizing every detail. What do you see when you look at me? I whispered. Strength you don't recognize, beauty you don't own, a future you're afraid to want. His hand rose slowly, giving me time to pull away. When I didn't, he brushed a strand of hair from my face, his fingers lingering against my cheek. What do you see when you look at me? Danger, I breathed. Power, something I should run from. But you're not running. No, I admitted, I'm not. His thumb traced my jawline, achingly gentle. I meant what I said. You owe me nothing. If you want to walk away, I'll take you home right now. No questions, no consequences. And if I don't want to walk away, the question hung between us, heavy with promise and threat. Then I'll be the most dangerous thing that ever happened to you, he said softly. Because once I have you, Emma, I don't let go. That's who I am. That's how I'm built. I should have been terrified. Should have run screaming from this man and his beautiful cage and his honest warnings. Instead, I leaned closer. Maybe I'm tired of being let go. His control snapped like a wire pulled too tight. His hand slid into my hair, cupping the back of my neck, and he kissed me with a hunger that stole my breath, and my sense, and every rational thought I'd ever had. The kiss was possession, promise, the claiming of something he'd decided was his. And God help me, I kissed him back. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against mine. Stay tonight, he whispered against my lips. Not for anything but sleep, just stay. Let me hold you. Let me show you what it's like to be cherished. Every warning bell in my head was screaming, but my heart, my stupid, hopeful heart, was louder. "Okay," I breathed. He took my hand and led me inside, up a grand staircase, to a bedroom that was somehow both luxurious and intimate. He gave me clothes to sleep in, his shirt, soft and smelling of him, left me alone to change while he disappeared into another room. When he returned, he wore only sleep pants, and I couldn't help but stare at the canvas of scars across his chest and arms. Stories written in violence. He saw me looking and didn't hide. The life I lead leaves marks. Does it hurt? Not anymore. They're just reminders. We climbed into bed, a massive thing that felt like sleeping on clouds, and he pulled me against him, my back to his chest, his arm wrapped protectively around my waist. "Sleep, Emma," he murmured into my hair. "You're safe here, I promise." And impossibly, surrounded by luxury I didn't deserve, held by a man I should fear, I felt safer than I had in years. I fell asleep to the sound of his steady heartbeat and woke to find my life had changed forever. I woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the scent of coffee. For a disorienting moment, I didn't know where I was. The bed was too soft, the sheets too expensive, the room too beautiful. Then memory crashed back. Vincent. The dinner. The kiss that had rewired something fundamental inside me. I was alone in the massive bed. But I could hear movement somewhere in the house. Voices, low and urgent. The kind of conversation that stopped when doors opened. I found my dress from last night draped carefully over a chair, my shoes placed neatly beside it. On the nightstand sat a tray with coffee, fresh fruit, and a handwritten note. "Had to handle some business. Teresa will take you home whenever you're ready. Last night was perfect. V." I dressed quickly, my hands shaking slightly as I zipped the emerald silk. What had I done? Spent the night at a mob boss's house. Kissed him like my life depended on it. Let him hold me while I slept. This was insane. This was dangerous. This was the most alive I'd felt in years. Teresa was waiting downstairs, her expression warm but professional. "Good morning, Miss Hartwick. Mr. Moretti apologizes for having to leave early. He left instructions that I'm to drive you home and ensure you have everything you need." "That's not necessary. I can call a cab." Mr. Moretti was very clear. Her smile was kind but firm. "Please let me do this. He'll worry otherwise." The idea that Vincent Moretti would worry about me was absurd, but I followed Teresa to a sleek Mercedes in the garage, one of at least 8 vehicles I could see, and let her drive me back to my tiny studio. The contrast was jarring. From mansion to shoebox in 20 minutes. "Miss Hartwick?" Teresa's voice was gentle as we pulled up to my building. "A word of advice, if I may?" I turned to face her. "Mr. Moretti is a good man, despite what people say. I've worked for his family for 30 years. I watched him grow up." Her eyes were serious, but his world is complicated, dangerous. If you're going to be part of it, you need to understand what that means. I'm not. We're just... You are, she interrupted gently. I saw how he looked at you last night. I've never seen him look at anyone that way, and that means you're already part of his world, whether you've accepted it or not. A chill ran down my spine. What does that mean? It means people will notice. People who want to hurt him will see you as a way to do it. It means your life is no longer entirely your own. She reached over, patted my hand. But it also means you'll be protected, cherished. He'll move heaven and earth to keep you safe. Just be prepared for what that protection looks like. She drove away, leaving me standing on the sidewalk with more questions than answers. The next week passed in a blur of normalcy that felt anything but normal. I started my job at the Venetian, working evening shifts as a hostess. The work was easy, the tips were excellent, and the staff treated me with a deference I didn't understand until I overheard 2 waiters talking. "That's Moretti's girl," one whispered. "No way. She's too... normal." "I'm telling you, Castellano personally hired her. She's untouchable." I wanted to correct them. Wanted to explain that I wasn't anyone's girl. That Vincent and I had spent one evening together. That whatever they thought was happening wasn't, but I didn't. Because my phone buzzed constantly with texts from him. "How was your first day? Did Castellano treat you well? Thinking about you." Simple messages that made my heart race. I responded, keeping things casual, but the truth was I thought about him constantly. About his kiss, his touch, the way he'd held me like I was something precious. On my 4th day at the Venetian, Daniel showed up. I was seating a couple when I saw him stride through the entrance, his face flushed with rage and alcohol. My stomach dropped. "Emma!" His voice carried across the elegant lobby. "We need to talk. Now." The couple I was seating looked uncomfortable. The other diners turned to stare. I felt my face flush with humiliation. "Daniel, you need to leave." "Like hell I do." He was in front of me now, close enough that I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "You think you can just walk away, take everything? Whore yourself out to some criminal and pretend you're better than me?" The words hit like slaps. Around us, people were pulling out phones, recording. The manager was rushing over, security close behind. "Sir, you need to leave immediately." "Fuck off," Daniel snarled, then turned back to me. "You're nothing, Emma. You hear me? Nothing. And when Moretti's done with you, when he throws you away like the trash you are, you'll come crawling back." His hand shot out, grabbing my wrist hard enough to bruise. Then everything happened at once. Security grabbed Daniel, but not before he'd yanked me forward. I stumbled, my ankle twisting in my heels. Pain shot through my leg as I hit the marble floor hard. Daniel was dragged toward the exit, screaming obscenities. The manager was helping me up, asking if I was okay. Other staff members crowded around, their faces concerned. But all I could focus on was my wrist, already darkening with the imprint of Daniel's fingers, and the horrible certainty that I'd just made everything worse. Mr. Castellano insisted I go to the hospital. I insisted I was fine. We compromised. I'd go home, ice my ankle, and take the next day off. The Uber ride home felt like a funeral procession. I knew what was coming. Knew that someone would have called Vincent, that he'd see the incident report, that... My phone rang before I even got my door unlocked. "Are you hurt?" His voice was deadly calm, the kind of calm that came before storms. "I'm fine. Just a twisted ankle. Where are you?" "Home, Vincent. It's not a big deal. I'm sending a doctor. And security. They'll be there in 10 minutes. I don't need..." "Emma?" The way he said my name stopped me cold. "Your ex-husband assaulted you in public. Grabbed you hard enough to leave bruises. That is very much a big deal. It was just... Don't." Steel threaded through his voice. "Don't minimize what he did. Don't make excuses for him. He hurt you. That matters." Tears pricked my eyes. When was the last time someone had been angry on my behalf? Had cared enough to call assault what it was? "Okay," I whispered. "The doctor will check you over. Security will stay outside your building tonight. Tomorrow, we'll discuss what happens next." "Vincent, you can't." "I can. I will. And before you argue, understand this, Emma. You're mine to protect now. I take that seriously." He hung up before I could respond. True to his word, a doctor arrived within 10 minutes, a kind woman in her 40s who examined my ankle, checked my wrist, and prescribed ice and rest. After her came 2 security guards who positioned themselves outside my building with the quiet efficiency of soldiers. I sat in my small apartment, ice on my ankle, and tried to process what was happening. This was real. Vincent's world was bleeding into mine, and I had no idea how to stop it. Or if I even wanted to. Vincent came the next morning. I heard the security guards outside my door shift, heard their murmured, "Mr. Moretti," and then he was there, filling my small space with his presence. He wore dark jeans and a black sweater, casual for him, but still looked like he'd stepped off a magazine cover. His eyes went immediately to my bandaged ankle, then to the bruises on my wrist. Something dark and dangerous flickered across his face. "Show me," he said quietly. I held out my wrist. He took it with infinite gentleness, his fingers ghosting over the purple marks Daniel had left. For a long moment, he just stood there, staring at the evidence of violence against me. When he looked up, his eyes were black with rage. "He's gone," Vincent said flatly. My blood ran cold. "What do you mean, gone?" "I mean he's no longer a problem. He won't hurt you again. He won't come near you again. He won't exist in your world anymore." "Vincent, what did you do?" He sat beside me on my small couch, his hand still cradling my injured wrist. I convinced him to leave the city, permanently. He has incentive to start over somewhere far away and never speak your name again. You didn't kill him? No. His smile was cold. But you have enough trauma without that on your conscience. So I found a different solution. I should have been horrified, should have demanded details, called the police, something. But all I felt was relief. Daniel was gone. The man who'd made my life hell for 3 years was finally, truly gone. Thank you, I whispered. Vincent's expression softened. He released my wrist carefully, then cupped my face with both hands. You don't thank me for protecting you. You never have to thank me for that. This is crazy, I said, even as I leaned into his touch. We barely know each other. This whole thing is moving too fast. I know. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I know it's fast. I know it's intense. I know you should probably run from me as far and as fast as you can. Then why are you here? Because I can't stay away. The admission seemed to pain him. I've tried, Emma. I've tried to give you space, to let you process everything, but every time my phone rings, I think it's you in danger. Every time I close my eyes, I see your face. You've gotten under my skin, and I don't know how to shake you loose. Do you want to? My voice was barely audible. No, he breathed. God help me, no. He kissed me then, soft and searching, like he was asking permission for something we'd already started. I kissed him back, threading my fingers through his hair, pulling him closer despite the voice in my head screaming warnings. When we broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. Come stay with me, he said, just for a few days, until your ankle heals. Let me take care of you. Vincent, I know what you're going to say. It's too much, too fast, too everything. But I can't protect you here, Emma. This building has no security. Anyone could walk in. And after yesterday, after seeing what your ex did, his jaw tightened. I can't lose you to something I could have prevented. You can't lose what you don't have, I pointed out. His eyes met mine, dark and intense and utterly serious. But I do have you. Maybe I've had you since that elevator ride. Maybe since I saw you scrambling to pick up your papers while people stepped over you. Maybe since the moment I realized you threw away $50,000 without even looking at it. His hands framed my face. You're mine, Emma. You just haven't accepted it yet. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it sent heat pooling in my stomach. For a few days, I heard myself agree. Until my ankle heals. The smile that crossed his face was pure triumph. Pack a bag. I'll send someone to get the rest of your things tomorrow. Vincent, I said a few days. I heard you. His smile turned predatory. But I'm a patient man, Emma. I can wait for you to realize you're not leaving. Moving into Vincent's mansion felt like stepping into another world. Teresa had prepared a guest room for me. Vincent insisted I have my own space. But I spent most of my time in the library or on the terrace, watching the city lights and trying to understand how my life had become this. Vincent worked from home, taking calls in his office, hosting meetings I wasn't invited to. But every evening, we had dinner together. Just the two of us, talking about everything and nothing. He told me about his father, about growing up in a world where violence was currency, and loyalty was everything, about taking over the family business at 25 when his father died, about the weight of expectations and legacy. I told him about my childhood, about losing my parents young, about the series of foster homes and the determination to make something of myself, about marrying Daniel because I was tired of being alone, about slowly realizing I'd traded one kind of loneliness for another. You're not alone anymore, Vincent said one night, his hand covering mine across the dinner table. Aren't I? You disappear for hours, take calls you won't explain, have meetings behind closed doors. I don't even know what you do all day. His expression grew serious. Do you want to know? Did I? Knowing would make me complicit, would pull me deeper into a world I still wasn't sure I belonged in. Yes, I said finally. I want to know. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. Tomorrow. I'll show you. The next morning, Vincent woke me early. Get dressed. Something comfortable. We're going out. An hour later, I found myself in the passenger seat of one of his SUVs, a different one from before, but equally luxurious, watching the city wake up. We drove to the waterfront district, to a series of warehouses that looked abandoned. Inside the largest one, I found controlled chaos. Workers unloaded trucks under the watchful eye of armed guards. Computers lined one wall, their screens showing what looked like shipping manifests and inventory lists. Money, stacks and stacks of cash, was being counted and sorted in a far corner. Vincent's hand rested on the small of my back as he guided me through. This is one of my distribution centers. We handle imports, mostly legitimate. Some less so. Less so, I repeated. Luxury goods that people want to buy without paying luxury taxes. Art that collectors want without government interference. Medicine that pharmaceutical companies price too high. He met my eyes steadily. I'm not going to lie to you, Emma. Some of what I do exists in gray areas, but I don't deal drugs. I don't traffic people. I don't hurt innocents. Just people who hurt you first. Exactly. We walked through the warehouse, and I watched people defer to him immediately. Saw the respect, the fear, the absolute loyalty in their eyes. This was Vincent's kingdom, and he ruled it with iron control. Why are you showing me this? I asked. Because if you're going to be part of my life, you need to understand what that life looks like. I won't hide from you, Emma. I won't pretend to be something I'm not. He stopped, turning me to face him. But I need you to decide if you can accept it. If you can accept me. I looked around the warehouse, at the guards and the money and the gray morality of it all. Then I looked at Vincent, at the man who'd protected me, cherished me, been honest with me when he could have lied. I accept you, I said quietly. The relief in his eyes was palpable. He pulled me close, kissed my forehead. Thank you. We spent the rest of the day visiting his other businesses, legitimate ones. A restaurant where he greeted staff by name. A construction company building affordable housing. A community center in a rough neighborhood where kids took boxing lessons and got hot meals. This is who I am too, he said, as we watched teenagers spar in the ring. The money I make in the gray areas, a lot of it goes here. To places like this. To people who need it. Robin Hood with a criminal empire. I murmured, something like that. He smiled. Is that something you can live with? I thought about it seriously. About the man he was versus the man people said he was. About the violence he was capable of versus the gentleness he showed me. About the world he lived in versus the one I wanted to build. Yes, I said finally. I think it is. His smile was radiant. Then let's go home. Home. When had I started thinking of his mansion as home? That night, after dinner, Vincent found me on the terrace. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder as we looked out at the city. I have something to tell you, he said quietly. My heart raced. What? Your ex-husband, Daniel, he wasn't just a thief. He was working with someone, a rival of mine. They planned to use the money he stole to fund a move against my territory. I turned in his arms. What? I've known for weeks. That's why I was at the Venetian that day. I was investigating. And then I saw you. His hand cupped my face. And everything changed. Instead of focusing on the threat, I became obsessed with the thief's wife, with you. Vincent. The rival made a move 3 days ago. Tried to hit one of my shipments. Failed, obviously. But Emma... His expression grew grave. They know about you now. They know you matter to me. And that makes you a target. Fear iced through my veins. What does that mean? It means I need to keep you close, keep you safe. It means the security, the protection. It's not just me being possessive. It's necessary. For how long? Until the threat is neutralized. His arms tightened around me. I'm handling it. But I need you to trust me. Need you to stay here where I can protect you. Can you do that? Every instinct screamed to run, to get away from this world of violence and danger. But when I looked into Vincent's eyes, I saw genuine fear. Fear for me. I trust you, I whispered. He kissed me then, deep and desperate, like I was air and he'd been drowning. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. I'm falling for you, Emma. falling so hard it terrifies me. And I will burn down this entire city before I let anyone hurt you." The intensity of his words should have frightened me. Instead, I pulled him closer. "Then don't let go," I breathed. "Never," he promised against my lips. "Never." The threat came exactly 1 week later. I was in the library, curled up with a book I wasn't really reading, when Vincent's office door burst open. Raised voices, sharp, urgent, echoed through the house. I set down my book, my heart already racing. Sophia appeared in the doorway, her expression grim. "Emma, I need you to come with me. Now, what's happening?" "Vincent's orders. There's been a development." She was already moving toward me, her hand on the weapon I knew she carried. "We need to get you to the safe room." Safe room. The words sent ice through my veins. I followed her through the house to a section I'd never seen before. She pressed her palm to a scanner, and a section of wall slid open, revealing a reinforced door. Beyond it was a room that looked like a luxury bunker. Comfortable furniture, supplies, monitors showing every angle of the property. "Stay here until Vincent or I come for you," Sophia said. "Don't open this door for anyone else." "Understand?" "Sophia, what's happening?" Her expression softened slightly. "The rival made a move. They're coming here. But Vincent has it handled. You're safe as long as you stay put." She closed the door, and I heard the locks engage with heavy clicks. I was alone in the silence, watching security monitors show Vincent's men taking positions around the property. Armed, dangerous, preparing for war. On one screen, I could see Vincent in his office, jacket off, gun holstered at his side, speaking into a phone with the cold precision of a general commanding troops. This was the other side of him, the side that controlled an empire through force and fear, the side I'd chosen to accept. Minutes crawled by like hours. On the monitors, I watched 3 black vehicles approach the gates. Watched Vincent's security intercept them. Watched him walk out to meet them himself, flanked by guards, radiating lethal calm. I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could see the body language. The rival, a thin man in an expensive suit, gesturing angrily. Vincent standing perfectly still, letting the man rage. And then Vincent said something, just a few words, and I watched the color drain from the rival's face. Whatever Vincent had said, it was a killing blow. The rival's men were escorted off the property. The vehicles drove away. Vincent stood in the driveway for a long moment, then turned and walked back inside. 10 minutes later, the safe room door opened. Vincent stood there, looking tired but unharmed. "It's over." I launched myself at him, my arms wrapping around his neck, my face buried in his shoulder. He caught me easily, holding me tight, one hand in my hair. "You're okay," I breathed. "You're okay." "I'm okay." He pulled back just enough to cup my face, his eyes searching mine. "And you're safe. It's finished, Emma. The rival won't be a problem anymore." "What did you do?" "I made him an offer he couldn't refuse." His smile was grim. "He's leaving the city, taking his operation elsewhere. And if he ever even thinks your name again, I'll know. And I'll end him." The casual way he said it should have horrified me. But all I felt was relief, safe, protected. "Take me to bed," I whispered. "Not to sleep. Just, I need you." Heat flared in his dark eyes. "Emma, I know what I'm asking." I pulled him closer. "I want you, Vincent. All of you. No more separate rooms. No more pretending this is temporary. I want—" He kissed me, cutting off my words, his mouth claiming mine with a hunger that had been building for weeks. I kissed him back just as desperately, my hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him impossibly closer. He lifted me effortlessly, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me through the house to his bedroom. Not the guest room, but his private sanctuary. The bed was massive, the sheets dark silk, the room scented with his cologne. He set me down gently, his hands trembling slightly as they framed my face. "Are you sure? Because once this happens, Emma, there's no going back. You'll be mine completely, and I don't share. I don't let go. I don't want you to let go," I breathed. "I want to be yours." What followed was a claiming as much as a coupling. Vincent worshipped every inch of me, his touch reverent and possessive by turns. He took his time, learning what made me gasp, what made me moan, what made me shatter in his arms. And when we finally came together, when he buried himself inside me with a groan that sounded like coming home, I understood what Teresa had meant. I was part of his world now, completely, irrevocably, and I didn't want to be anywhere else. Afterwards, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my bare shoulder. The city lights glowed through the windows, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I belonged somewhere. "Marry me," Vincent said quietly. I went still. "What?" He shifted so he could look into my eyes. "Marry me, Emma. Not because you need protection, not because I'm possessive, though God knows I am, but because I love you. Because I want you by my side for the rest of my life. Because you make me want to be better than I am." Tears pricked my eyes. "Vincent, I know it's fast. I know it's crazy. But I've never been more certain of anything." His hand cupped my face. "Say yes, please." I thought about everything that had led to this moment. The failed marriage that had brought me to that courthouse. The elevator ride that had changed everything. The dangerous man who'd protected me, cherished me, shown me what it meant to be truly seen. "Yes," I whispered. "Yes, I'll marry you." His smile was brilliant. He kissed me deeply, then rolled to his nightstand and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring that took my breath away. An emerald surrounded by diamonds, the stone the exact color of the dress he'd given me. "I've been carrying this for a week," he admitted as he slid it onto my finger. "Waiting for the right moment. This was the right moment? Every moment with you is the right moment." He kissed my hand, just above the ring. "You're mine now, Emma. Completely mine. And I'm yours. I'll protect you, cherish you, love you for the rest of my life, even though I'm just a diner waitress who threw away $50,000. Especially because of that." His eyes were warm, full of love that still stunned me. "You saw me as just a man in an elevator. You didn't want anything from me except to be left alone. Do you know how rare that is in my world?" "I'm not rare. I'm ordinary." "You're extraordinary." He pulled me closer. "And you're mine." We married 3 months later in a private ceremony at the mansion. Just us, Teresa, Sophia, a priest, and a handful of Vincent's most trusted people. I wore white silk that Vincent had commissioned from a designer whose name I could barely pronounce. He wore a black suit that made him look like a dark prince. My sister came, hesitant at first, terrified when she realized who Vincent really was, but slowly warming when she saw how he looked at me, how gentle he was, how completely, obviously in love. "He's dangerous," she whispered to me before the ceremony. "I know," I whispered back. "But he loves you." "I know that too." She hugged me tight. "Then be happy, Emma. God knows you deserve it." The ceremony was simple, our vows heartfelt. When Vincent slid the wedding band onto my finger, white gold to match the emerald engagement ring, his hands shook slightly. "I love you," he said, "just for me. My Emma. Mine. Yours," I agreed, "always." We honeymooned at a private villa in Italy, Vincent's ancestral homeland. 2 weeks of sunshine and wine and learning each other's bodies in new ways. 2 weeks of feeling cherished and protected and loved. 2 weeks of paradise before returning to reality. 6 months after our wedding, I enrolled in university. Vincent had been right. I had the money, the time, the opportunity. And with his encouragement, I finally pursued the literature degree I'd always dreamed of. I still worked at the Venetian 2 nights a week. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to maintain some independence. Vincent understood, even though I caught him watching me through the security cameras sometimes, that protective instinct never quite settling. We found our rhythm. He managed his empire, the legal and the gray, while I built my new life. We had dinner together every night he was in town. Spent weekends at the mansion, reading in the library or entertaining the few friends we both trusted. I learned the rules of his world, learned which questions not to ask, learned to recognize the signs when he needed to handle something dangerous, and to trust that he'd come home to me safely. And he learned my world too, attended my university events, charmed my professors, sat through poetry readings with genuine interest, the dangerous mob boss reading Yeats in our library, discussing themes and metaphors with the same intensity he brought to business negotiations. We weren't perfect. We fought, usually about his overprotectiveness or my stubbornness. But we always came back together, always chose each other, always remembered what we'd built from the ashes of my ruined first marriage. Daniel's name came up exactly once in those 6 months. A mutual acquaintance mentioned seeing him in Nevada, working as a used car salesman, looking defeated and afraid. "Good," I said simply. Vincent's hand found mine under the table. "No regrets?" "About him? Not a single one." I looked at my husband, dangerous, powerful, completely devoted to me. "About you?" "Never." 1 year after the divorce hearing that had changed everything, I woke in our bedroom to find Vincent watching me, a soft smile on his face. "What?" I asked sleepily. "Just thinking about that elevator ride, about how close I came to never knowing you." I shifted closer, pressing against his warmth. "Fate?" "Luck," he corrected. "The best luck of my life, even though I threw away your money, especially because you threw away my money." He kissed my forehead. "It told me you were different, special, worth everything." "I love you," I whispered. "I love you more." His arms tightened around me. "My Emma, my wife." "Mine, yours," I agreed. The word as natural as breathing now. "Always yours." We lay there in comfortable silence, watching the sunrise paint the city gold. Somewhere out there, Vincent had enemies, had rivals who would love to use me against him, had a world of danger and gray morality that I'd chosen to accept. But here, in this moment, in his arms, I was simply loved, protected, cherished, home. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a reminder about my afternoon class. Vincent's phone buzzed seconds later, probably some crisis that needed his attention. "Real world calling," I sighed. "Let it wait." He pulled me closer. "Just 5 more minutes, just you and me." 5 more minutes, I agreed. But we both knew the truth. We'd take as many minutes as we could steal. As many moments. As many years. Because I'd walked into a courthouse expecting to lose everything, and instead, I'd found the man who would give me the world. A dangerous man. A powerful man. A man who'd seen me when I was invisible and decided I was worth fighting for. Vincent Moretti had crashed my divorce hearing and stolen my heart. And I'd let him. I'd let him in. Let him protect me. Let him love me. And somehow, impossibly, wonderfully, that had been the best decision of my life. "Mrs. Moretti," Vincent murmured against my hair. I smiled, loving the sound of that name, loving the life we'd built, loving him with everything I had. "Mr. Moretti," I replied. And in the golden morning light, wrapped in each other's arms, we started another day in our dangerous, beautiful, perfectly imperfect life together.